the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box. What's up, my friends? How you doing out there? It's episode 125 and it's Monday. You know what that means.
That's right. It's just another Manic Monday for your next episode of Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box. I am just but one half of your handsome, humble, heavyweight co-host duo who are wearing matching hats. I am the Lunchbox. That is one word, capital L, capital B. Thank you very much. Joined, as always, by the master of ceremonies, yet to taste matrimony. He's got no money. He loves you, honey.
Money, money, money,
and
money.
He's kind of funny. Brandon, the boss Blacker, go ahead.
Hey. Look, man. You know, just because I don't have money, at least you got the gift of gab, so it's okay. What's up?
Sadly, it's not making us any money, though.
Hey, I'll tell you what. This podcast has made me more money than the band has.
That's just because we don't have the overhead cost of a band. I can say that too. But like I said, that's just because we don't have the overhead. We pay a couple bucks a month for Restream, Spotify, and all that. By the way, check us out on Restream, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Music, anywhere you get your podcasts.
That's right.
But that being said, you know, when's the last time you had to buy a new cymbal for the podcast?
Yeah, that's a fair and valid point, man. And I got it as a drummer like you, my friend. I have very expensive taste when it comes to the drums, so good point.
Yeah, it's not like you got a DW or nothing. I mean, neither do I.
I couldn't afford a DW if it was thrown at me.
Got it. Don't throw a DW at you because, you know, you can't pay for it.
I can't pay for it.
So anyway, Mr. Blacker, I hear you had quite the eventful weekend up in Redwood Metal Fest.
That's right. I was up in Ukiah, man. And when you hear the words Ukiah, you automatically think, man, did he smoke a hell of a lot of weed? No, I didn't. But I know a lot of people who did at the Redwood Metal Fest that was thrown by Brian Sticky Tips. And my God, that is in the top 5 of favorite shows I have ever performed at. It made me feel like I was at Warped Tour. It made me feel like I was at Ozfest, but in 1/8 of the fraction.
You mean 1/8 of the space?
Yeah. You know, 1/8 of the fraction of the space. You know, that kind of thing. Anyways.
I got you.
We had booths. You know, we had our easy ups. It felt good, man. The only difference was, of course, we had to wear masks and do that whole thing. So it was a little weird in that regard because I'm used to, like, going balls out at festivals and stage diving and moshing and all that other cool stuff. But everything was smooth. The bands were awesome. It was headlined by a band called Lich King, which was a really cool band from down south.
Super good band.
So props to Brian Sticky Tips for putting it all together. It was very reminiscent of my Devastated Fest, which our guests tonight have actually played. So
that's where I actually met them in person for the first time.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, and actually I got a funny story about that the night before.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's get into it. Mr. Lunchbox, would you do the honors of introducing our friends and guests here?
Sure, but real quick, I just want to say, being as that was the final chapter of Redwood Metal Fest, and I never got to attend nor play one, regardless, to friend of the show and former guest, Brian Sticky Tips, I raise my glass for everything you've done for your musical community up there, for everything you continue to do for your musical community. My man, you had a great 10-year run, and I look forward to seeing what you pull out next because, man, you're a jack of all trades and you do great work. It's an honor to have you as a friend of the show, dude. Thank you very much for everything you've done. Now, that being said, our guest tonight, we're going to take it to a different spot. We're going to take it to an unknown spot. We're going to take it to where the mosh pit meets the dance floor. we are going to have a guest who you and I have both been friends with for, well, longer than we've known each other. We've known this guy. And throughout over 25 years, these guys have been out making music, doing the damn thing from the East to the West Coast and back again. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box stage, Pat Servido and Klank Klank.
That's right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box, guys. How are we doing tonight?
Hey, we're doing good.
I'm doing good. I got one quick question. Like, I heard you talking fractions. It's not going to be any weird, like, math quizzes going on in this.
No. We're drinking. We have to leave the math alone.
All right.
But he kept saying eighth, so I know what he was alluding to.
Oh, right.
Well, if you partake, please.
And by the way, I do raise my glass to Brian Sticky Tips as well, because he was great to hang out with at Devastated Fest when we played. I love that guy. He was great.
Yeah, like I said, man, it's a shame because we could always use more promoters, man. To see one step out of the game kind of sucks, but we also know he's not leaving the community. He's just going to do something different. And with the mind the guy has for the business, I'm excited.
And
yeah.
I, as a promoter, I can kind of be a jerk every once in a while, but he is a sweetheart of a man and a sweetheart of a promoter, and he's not afraid to tell you how he feels too. And that's kind of a rare breed in terms of a promoter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, we're going to kind of jump around here. Like, Lunchbox and I have kind of known you guys off and on for the last 10 plus years. So we're just going to kind of jump around, ask you questions, and I want you guys to give us the full bore answers of, unexplicit answers. Sound good?
Word.
All right.
Or if they could be explicit answers, please. We're an explicit show. It's not for kids. If your kids are watching this show,
whoops.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, you're using $5 words like explicit. I don't know the meaning of that.
Now let's start with the first softball question. What's everybody drinking tonight? Klank, you first.
I actually have some Conor McGregor's Proper 12 whiskey in my glass on the rocks, of course. Cheers.
Proper number 12, is it like that straight left hand right up there on the meat of the chin?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's no J-Mo, it's no Jameson, but it was a birthday gift from my brother last week, so it's all good in the hood.
The best kind of liquor is free liquor. What you got over there, Pat?
I'm keeping it classy. Stella in a can.
Stella.
Stella, your husband's a bum.
Unfortunately, I got the Bobby Boucher edition of the high quality H2O.
High quality H2O.
H2O.
Was it blessed by an Eskimo medicine man?
Yes, it was. What do you got, Bob?
Well, I decided to go with one of my personal favorite beers for tonight, the peanut butter from Central Coast Brewing, made with real Skippy peanut butter.
What?
Oh. Huh.
Oh man, if you guys find this, grab it. It's a lot of times I'll do new beers for the show. This is one of my favorites. So even when I was hunting down like 5 or 6 new beers to drink throughout the course of the next week or so, I still make it a point to grab this one. It's that damn good. You can taste the Skippy.
Is it the beer that drinks like a meal? Is that what's happening?
Yes. Yes, it's that nice, thick, healthy stout that like fills your belly a little bit as you consume it. By the way, Brian Sticky Tips, thank you for joining us 15 seconds after we said all those nice things about you.
Yeah.
Brian, the stickiest of the ickies.
Oh man. Yeah, so if you haven't been keeping up with the show, which you're not required to, the reason I'm drinking water is because Lunchbox almost killed me about 3 weeks ago.
I do not recall having a funnel placed down your throat and forcing you to only drink through half the competition, Brandon.
All right, I'm not a huge drinker, all right? So I decided to finally participate in what we called Power Hour, drinking 60 shots of beer in 60 minutes, which the problem was we're drinking we're drinking 6%.
We're drinking 6% Little Red Riding Hood and Moj Simpson from our sponsors at Settle Down Beer. That is SDB out of Gilroy, California. Fine beer, even finer folks.
I don't know, 60 beer shots in 60 minutes?
It was 7.5 beers in 1 hour.
Oof.
Brandon, well, and 6% beers on 100-degree day in my garage.
Yeah, maybe in my 20s. Not.
Yeah, that's how us and Tracy both put it afterwards. Like, yeah, that was cool and all, but no, we're not doing that again. We're too old for this shit.
Yeah.
So it was 3 weeks ago. So you're still dealing with the hangover then?
You know,
real.
probably. It's probably lingering in there somewhere. But yeah, man, I haven't been the same since.
Nor will you be.
Never again. There are no winners and losers in the Power Hour, only survivors, and you died.
I died. I ended up in the hospital.
No
And
winners,
you got
only
down halfway
fuel.
through.
Yeah, man. Well, anyways, we can talk about that forever. But we're here to talk about you.
That's not why we're here.
We're here to talk about you, my friend. So, with that being said, Klank has been around for some odd 27-ish years. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, the very first Klank song was written in December of '93. It was released on a REX music sampler in '94. That was the label that my old band Circle of Dust was on. And actually, this year, we are celebrating in November the 25th anniversary of the release of our debut album, Still Suffering, on Tooth and Nail Records. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
In other words, we're old.
When that came out,
Well, what'd you say?
I said we were only 3 when that record came out.
No,
3.5.
I was 8. No, wait, I was 12.
Now let's see. According to Wikipedia. Let's see. Pat, you have been in the band since '97, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's me because the last name of that Pat is spelled wrong.
Servidio.
Servedio, Vedio,
Yeah.
Vedio.
Yeah, so 97. I think I helped. We go back from me and Klank go back probably close to 30 years now. So he was in Circle Dust, I was in a thrash band at the time, and we would always be out promoting shows and seeing each other. So I helped him put live set together because I had a studio back then too, and I wasn't in the band yet. Helped him do some studio stuff, and we hit it off studio wise right then. And then he had a tour set, and guitarist bailed like a week before. He calls me up. He's like, "What are you doing for the next 2 months?" I need a guitarist to fill in. I'm like, "Cool." Thinking I was just going to be like, all right, cool. Just do that tour and go back to the other band I was doing at the time. And here we are 20-something years later.
You got stuck.
Right.
So the one thing
You just couldn't escape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I keep trying.
There's no escape. There's no escape.
Well, yeah, I mean, according to Wikipedia, because that's always so extremely accurate.
Always.
You know,
Totally.
So you've been in from '97 to 2001, and then 2007 to now. Is that correct?
Well, Pat's been here since right after the first album came out. Like you said, he did the tour. We took like a sort of little break hiatus for a little bit, but we still were in touch. He was sending me ideas of stuff that he was coming up. I was actually working for Ringling Brothers at the time, on tour with them. I was the show. I was the transportation
We're gonna
manager.
get to that.
and the show welder, fabricator. And I lived on a train and we traveled from town to town. That's a whole nother 3 hours in itself. But Pat was constantly saying, check this out. There's something I worked on. There's something. And I was on the train. Like, I didn't really have a studio. I had very basic, like, sack kind of setup. But every time he sent me something, I was getting lyrical ideas. And they just kept kind of like building and building and building. And then every time we would roll through New York and stuff, it was like, hey, let's, work on some stuff, this and that. And then somebody had reached out from an old festival we used to do in Illinois. And a guy that was a big fan of ours passed away. And they did a memorial show for him at this festival, like in the middle of the cornfields in Illinois. And they said, you guys want to play? And I was like, man, I think we haven't played in a couple of years, but let me make some calls. So I reached out and it was all, yeah, I remember, because his name was Josh. He said, yeah, I remember him. Oh, yeah, well, you know what? Let's definitely play. Let's do something. So we figured, well, if we're going to show up and be at a music festival for 5 days anyway, we may as well record some of these songs that we got. And so when I rolled through town with the circus, we basically recorded an EP, and the spark, the creativity was just still there, and it is still to this day. And it's just been, even though it wasn't like consistently releasing music during that short period, it was still constantly in touch, working on things. And then even since then, we haven't still, just been recording, working on things. And, we actually have 4 albums recorded now that are just in the process of being mixed to come out.
Nice. 4 albums, man. That's a lot of stuff. And I mean, you guys have already released a lot of things. I mean, you've been soundtracks for documentaries. You've released 5 studio albums in addition to that.
9 albums total,
Yeah.
2 of which are scores, soundtracks. The last one was January 1st, 2020. It was a 2-song EP, which we did as a free download. Hint, hint, hint. Go to klanknation.com. And you can. It's a song called Keyboard Commandos, and then a remix we did for our friend Doug Pinnick of King's X of one of the songs for his solo album. And like I said, we're the unbanned. We don't follow any guidelines. We throw guidelines out the window. We do things how we want to do. And it's a blessing and a curse. Pat has a studio, so there's nobody standing over us going, reel it in, fellas, reel it in. We're super perfectionists. We will, we've been working on the most recent stuff for 3 years, but we also, in the middle of it, kind of took a break to do the 2 documentary scores. And, now we have such a surplus. And the idea since day one was to just have a surplus of stuff that we could just start banging out releases and drop singles here and there, maybe do some free remixes, free song here and there, maybe a cover song. We don't really we follow our own playbook, which is we don't have any rules. We do what we like when we like, and that's how we go.
Right. The one page in the playbook just says we do whatever the fuck we want.
Essentially.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well,
the only problem too, the blessing and the curse is after a while, we have to essentially reel it in ourselves and be like, all right, this is cool. Because, being musicians yourselves, you can micromanage and micro dissect everything till the day you die. And it's like, I mean, still, there's stuff that we've done 20 years ago that we go, probably would have did something a little different maybe, but it is what it is. Sooner or later, you got to draw the line in the sand and say, this is it, this is good. And it's funny because the last bunch of stuff we started working on, Pat and I were going through old hard drives at his house, and he was pulling up stuff, dude, from like right after Still, like 96 when Still Suffering was done. We were coming across like random, fragments, song structures, a song that was pretty much completed musically, but I never could find out what I wanted to say lyrically. Every time I came up with like lyric ideas and melody lines, I hated it. It was one of those, like Fine Line. It wasn't, it wasn't time. It wasn't time to release it. And then, ironically, we were working on the last bunch of stuff. Pat had pulled up the song from '96, and he goes, "Oh man, I love this song. It's too bad you never came up with anything for this that you liked." And at the time, I was still living at the top of the mountain by, like, you know, Boulder Creek, Brookdale area. I left his house that night. He had made a CD of, you know, whatever, 50 or 60 ideas and clips and whatever we had. And I was on my way up the mountain down this dark, desolate road, listening to that song on repeat. And instantly, my brain started, like, firing, like the synapses were going off. And it was very ADD. I had to pull over at the scenic overlook. And I was in my notepad. My thumbs were flying, you know, just trying to write down any ideas I had. And I continued on to the top of the hill. I had like 2 verses, a chorus. I had melody lines in my brain. I was like, oh, I can hear harmonies here, effects here. And then by the time I got to the top of the mountain, I pulled over one more time, finished writing the lyrics, and I hit him up. I said, oh my God, dude, the song's done. He goes, what song? I'm like, that one from '96. And so, like, the next day after work, I went to his house and cutting, like, the demos for it. And it was like, and it was just, I remember him spinning around in this chair being like, why couldn't you do that 20-something years ago? And it was just like, just wasn't, you know, it wasn't time. The oven wasn't hot enough.
All right,
now it was, you know.
All right, let's slow down, man, because we've turned into a freight train in the last 5 minutes. Like, you've given us so much.
Like I said, our playbook has no rules. Sorry, we went off the rails.
No, it's great.
Now, before you get into something, Lunchbox, I gotta say real quick, I'm so happy to hear that you guys have hard drives with your music on it from back then, because my guitar player also has music from the early 90s from when he started Suburban Paranoia, but he doesn't have hard drives. He has Betamax tapes.
Oh, yeah. So I still have above my studio in the loft area, I have bins of ADAT tapes.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went back through when we started we started going again. When we started up again, that's what I did. I took that time and I'm like, I'm just gonna take every ADAT tape and just dump everything in. So I dumped everything in to the computer at that point because I'm like, there's no way these ADAT tapes are gonna last much longer. But I still have. It's funny because I still have my old sampler somewhere under the desk or something like that from the numb days.
I like how you're looking for it. You're like, I saw that bitch on Thursday.
I was somewhere around that takes floppy disks. And all the samples we used to use are on floppy disks. And you would have to have 9 floppy disks of samples that you'd have to load every time you wanted to mix a song or work on a song. And when Eddie Van Halen passed away, I'm like, oh, dang, we did I'll Wait for our Van Halen tribute album in like 2000. And I found the flop for it. So I was going through all the ADATs and I'm like, I found almost everything for the song because I'm like, oh, let's just remix it and send it out, like, and post it again or whatever, or put it on our Spotify and stuff instead of the label we did it for. And I found like everything except for like the drums or some crap like that, or something like I was missing like one part. But yeah, so everything is on hard drives now, multiple hard drives.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there was probably 20 to 30 floppy disks per song, depending, because of the amount of sounds and samples. And I mean, it was very primitive back then. That's why I said, I'm like, Pat is like the tech guru in our place, because when you look at this, the bins and bins and bins of stuff that he had to load,
zip discs. Yeah,
it was insane.
Zip discs, then Jazz Drive discs. That was big. Jazz Drive was like, you got like a gig of space. It was
yeah, and we were like, we got a full gig for one song.
Yeah,
right.
Or zip discs at 100 megabytes. You were like, yeah.
Right, back then, like, a gig. Why would you need a whole gig? And now, like, hard drives are 100 gig hard drives, 90 gig hard drives, 60. You know, the amount of information that that we have to store nowadays is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And that was kind of where I wanted to go is, back in the early days, especially being as you guys have been doing most of it, you've been doing this all in-house the whole time?
Yeah. I mean, the very first album with mine, a former bandmate from Circle of Dust, but it was still done in his basement. So since day one, we've never paid, we've never had to pay for studio time, and we've never had to go into an actual studio. It's all been ourselves and engineered and mixed and mastered by Pat. The only album that wasn't mastered by him was one album in 2012, Urban Warfare. But yeah.
I love that.
Man, I feel bad saying that's my favorite album then.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
That was
cool.
mastered
Just
by
wait, dude. All I'm gonna say is just wait.
Yeah.
I mean, I love everything we've done. Like I said earlier, there's always gonna be something you can go back and go, maybe I would have did this different. But this is the first time in Pat and I at length. This is the first time in my 30 plus years of doing this stuff where it was like, it's different. Because when you record, I mean, you guys know, usually you're stressed out. You're a little, it has to be right. It has to be perfect. And you kind of almost psych yourself out before you cut guitars or bass or drums, whatever. And we still want it to be perfect. But the mindset when we started working on this stuff, the last 3 years has been so different. It's like we're in a different place of peace and comfort where we don't have that like knot in our stomach. Like we still want it to sound good, and we're still slightly antsy, but it's not that, you're like, it still has to be perfect, but we don't get that, like in Italian, you say agita, like that twist in your stomach from it. It's like, it's very, what's the word we're saying? Like organic. It flows. We're in such a comfort zone. Like when he writes stuff, when he works on his guitar parts, and he says, check this out. I messed around with a little bit at lunch at my job. Check this out. I send him something with like 2 guitar lines, and he sends me back a whole entire song with things and samples and synths and
Yes.
He does what he does, and it's like, and it's just like, oh my God, instantaneously, the neurons start firing like crazy. My brain is lighting up, and we send stuff back and forth, and it's just so relaxed and fluid. You know what I'm saying? It's different. It's like a different place of peace, and not as much worry, but more comfort, if that makes sense.
Do you think this is because and I didn't know this until started looking up you guys this week again. Is that because you came back to California? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Maybe a little bit, but even when I left California and I did a short stint in Texas, Pat set me up with a mini Mac and basically a small studio for when I was going to be in Texas. And from the time I got there, he did some research, he pulled up some programs, and basically he found a way for us to remotely record. Now, this is obviously way before COVID. Dude, we've always been ahead of the curve. DIY, leaving a label, doing stuff the way we wanted to do it. And even with the recording, after like a month or so of being in Texas, he said, all right, I got this idea. This is this program. I've checked all these stuff out. We're going to use this program. This is a plugin. I need to remote into your computer. Give me access. So it was like, all right. He remoted in because I don't know nothing about Macs. He's the Mac guru, like I said. And it's like, and he set everything up. He went in my computer and, took a little bit to work out latency and bugs and this and that. But now it's like for 2 years, anytime we worked on stuff, whether it was our stuff or, I did a bunch of guest appearances vocally for a couple of different artists. We work it out and say, all right, let's get together tonight at X amount of time. We FaceTime each other so we could see each other on video, mute the audio so it wasn't coming through on my end or his end on the microphones. I'd have the headphones on, and I would just basically, all I had to do was worry about my performance, whether it was guitars, bass, vocals. he would engineer it all from his house, from his studio in San Jose. And meanwhile, I'm in North Dallas, Texas. And it's so funny because when COVID hit and everybody was kind of freaking out, trying to figure out how to still stay, I don't want to say relevant, but stay creative, people started finding out about things that we were doing like 3-4 years ago. You know, and it was kind of awesome for us because it was like high five once again. You know, we just managed to do it that way. And even when coming back to California, yeah, it was definitely like a homecoming for me because, you know, I had shortly after I got to Texas, the Cliff Notes version I had an extremely bitter divorce. I had an awesome job. It was like one of those silver platter, you know, offer of a lifetime kind of deals. I was making a decent amount of money. I was renting a house. I was renting a 3-bedroom house on an eighth an acre of property for $1,400 a month. But I was miserable. Yeah, I was miserable. I had my best friends, my bandmates were here in California. My family was in New York. And I kind of felt like I was stranded on an island that was slowly sinking. You know, so it was rough. But when everything worked itself out for me to come back to from Texas to California, shortly after I landed here, we, you know, started working on stuff again, picked up some of the ideas we were working on when I was away and new ideas. And we just said, you know what, normally when we worked on an album, we would do, I don't know, 10, 12, 16 songs. And then we'd be like, all right, stop. Now let's focus on mixing, mastering, blah, blah, blah. You know, listen to the song 7,000 times to see if you're 100% happy with it. Things were going so good, like writing-wise and creativity-wise. So we were like, you know what? Why bother putting the brakes on it? Let's just keep going. And it's so funny because that's another reason why it's taken over 3 years to release this stuff, because even to now, it's like we still have constant stuff. We figured let's just ride the wave of creativity, and it's constantly been flowing. So
are you guys going to be the first to release the 10-disc album set in one shot?
Probably the retrospective spanning 20 years that's never been released, but now you get it. You know?
Right, the greatest hits album for the songs that never came out.
So
yeah, our favorites.
Right.
Songs you've never heard, volumes 1 through 18.
So currently, correct me if I'm wrong, is Klank just you two currently?
No, it's still myself and Eric, our drummer.
Oh.
We haven't played a show in a bit. Obviously, with my stint in Texas and coming back and, you know, the world disintegrating, we had a zombie apocalypse minus the zombies.
Yeah,
Boo.
right.
You know, but
They still might be coming.
yeah, exactly. And that's why we figured once because you never can cross out zombies off the list. There's always a chance. But once we feel safe enough, I mean, we want to play. There's no therapy like live music therapy. There's going to a show, and you guys know when you play, you step on a stage and you close your eyes and you walk out to the fog, the lasers and stuff, and you're there, but you're there.
Yep.
Like physically you're there, but mentally you're like 40 feet above the stage. That's how it always been for us, and we want that again. But we don't want to be like all these other bands rushing into it, like all these poor bands. I get it. You want to get out, but everybody's sick with COVID, or, you know, tours are getting canceled left and right. And we said, you know what, let's just keep creating. Maybe at some point we'll do like one of those online stream shows from an undisclosed location or something like that, where we can at least get out some of that live energy. But, you know, we're taking it every day as it comes, as it is, you know.
And I would think, and not to proverbially, you know, kiss your guys' butt, but if you guys did an online show or an online stream or a live stream, whatever, I think it will turn out freaking awesome, because if I know Klank the way I think I know Klank, it's not going to be, you know, just turn the camera on and go. It's going to be a performance.
Well, and you know us, we're perfectionists. We are very, like, you've seen our show before, syncopated lights, lasers, so much smoke that it makes Snoop Dogg look like he's in junior high school. We outsmoke him with the smoke machines. You know, it's just, we have a certain thing in mind when we do our shows, and we can't, like I said, we can't wait to do it again, but we want to make sure it's, safe for everybody. Pat's got 3 kids now, we care about our fans and the people, the listeners, and each other, and we don't want to risk putting ourselves in a situation prematurely where somebody else can get sick or we can get sick. I mean, because you don't know these days. You don't know. So
and the thing that's like both of our views on the live stream thing. It's super cool what everyone did. Like, it was all big during the COVID thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, we're live online streaming," and no one's live.
yeah,
But it was still cool. Like, I don't want to do that type of thing where it's pre-recorded, it's live. If we're gonna do a live stream thing, it's got to be a live, like it's a live show.
Absolutely.
That's how we.
Right.
That's why we haven't done anything too. Like, everything we've always talked about. Like, all right, let's do something. But that's what it is. Like, someone's in their location, I'm in mine, and then it's all put together there and selling it as live when it's all recorded and mixed and not live. So that's one
Where's
big
the
thing
realism?
too. What was that?
Where's the realism in
Right.
something like that?
Right.
Like, because that's the live show is not just about the performance, it's about the performance, the mess ups, the passion, the mishaps, the things that only come from being live. That's one of the reasons we do this show live.
Right.
Is so that way we get the real deal from you. We don't want to put anything on the cutting room floor. We used to do it that way, and it's not. This is so much more fun.
Trust me,
Yeah.
man. We've had some stinkers in here. we've had some awkward moments. We've had some tense moments. It's one of those things that you could only get live, because when you record it beforehand and then you view it afterwards, like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. And you take out all the authenticity of it.
Right.
Well, that's
and
the thing,
even
too.
like, and you can even go into it like, all right, we're just going to record it live and just put it out. But I think it's human nature to listen back to what you recorded and be like, we got to fix that. We got to fix that.
Yes.
Whereas a live thing, I don't want to even think about having to try to fix anything. I just want to set up something like a live stream, and it's like a real live show. You're coming to see us. That's how we feel about it, at least.
Exactly. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a perfect front man. There's a lot of times I'm flat. I can hide it pretty good, but if we're gonna see something, like, we have friends that have done shows, and it's been great. It's been great seeing like all these random people from bands, and it, like Pat said, it's great that they sell it live. Yeah, it was live at the time that each one of them recorded their part individually, but
Maybe.
dude, you know what? You get what you see is what you get. Like, if I'm gonna be a little flat, I might be a little flat. I might flub something. It is what it is. It's like I said, the joy of doing your show is it's unscripted. You get it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
I mean, strings can pop. Audio can. I mean, with us, shoot, man. Every time we record, every time we press record, something happens. Like ghosts and gremlins and the machines come out. Anytime we do a live show, there's always something where we look at each other like midway the show, like, what the hell is going on? It is what it is. But that also leads to a lot of the energy in the show, because over our career, we've played some doozies where we've had the computer completely crash. We've had the ADAT go down. We've had we played in Myrtle Beach in the late 90s. We were too much for the sound system, and the right half of the system just blew out. It was nothing but the left half. So you're only hearing half the cymbals, like the samples and the stuff. So it was like, and that kind of thing, we feed off that. Like, you can see, especially in Pat and my face, like, if we're like pissed off because something's like broken down, it's like, I can't wait to get to the end of this because I'm gonna smash this guitar. I want to kick this over. That plays off into the show, and it adds to the energy and the realism. And that's, I don't fault anybody else for doing the pre-recorded stuff, but for us, we want to have that live aspect. We want to have that vulnerability. You know what I'm saying?
Basically, it's cool if people want to do things the way they want to do them, but you have a way you want to present you, and you want to give it that. I like how you brought up the PA killing thing, because Klank did have a reputation for a while as the PA killers.
And that happened all across the country, bro, not just with you guys.
That I actually heard that, because God, it feels like a lifetime ago when I booked you guys on my very first Devastated Fest. Somebody told me, I forget who told me that. It might have been Brian Sticky Tips. He goes,
It was Nick Padilla.
"Oh yeah, okay, thank you." He goes, "So okay, you got Klank. Are you gonna have a good sound system?" And I go, I mean, probably. It's being provided by the venue. And he's like, "You might want to check up on that before you book Klank."
Yeah. Dude,
What was the bowling alley one?
Of, like subs and 808s, and we had a 10. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of a humble brag, but when you're playing a show and you're looking down at the monitors and you're watching the monitors tear as you're playing, like the cones are vibrating so much, there's just a certain level of enjoyment watching it just disintegrate. But the negative factor is you're listening for your cues, and we go by the samples. So if something sounds like it makes it really hard to know where the hell you're at because there's no cues.
Now hold on, I heard Pat go ahead and say something there, and I'm gonna addendum to that and ask that story be told. You said tell them about the bowling alley story. Was that Yosemite Lanes in Modesto?
Yeah, I think so.
That-
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Right.
So that was for Nick Padilla. Okay, yeah. Please proceed and tell us that story.
What was the name? They brought their own PA, and it was just like, did it last even half a song?
I'm trying to remember. This wasn't. Oh no! This wasn't the X Bar. This was
No, this was up in Modesto.
Modesto.
Yeah.
Was it Erosion's
I
PA?
felt bad.
Was it Erosion's PA?
Yeah.
I don't know. Was
think
that
so.
the Nick?
Yeah,
Was that Nick's show?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Because
That's how
Yeah,
Brandon heard the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember it just like that was because it was their PA. That was the only time I felt bad about like jacking up.
Destroying it.
Yeah. Normally, like we played shows. There was one. What was it like? I don't know, West Bumfuck, Illinois, Indiana, something like that. That was in the basement.
Oh, Evansville,
Indiana. Yes, the basement. We played it a couple times, and there was one like they had a pretty big system too, and like we just saw the song "Disease," and it just the whole woofer just freaking you saw it rip apart. Like it started just smoking. All right, let's turn it up. You know?
Yeah.
You know. But at that time too, all right, so that was when we were really touring hardcore, and at that time, like we would have our rider with our technical rider where we said what we had and what was needed for our PA. So if you didn't have enough to handle what we brought, then that's on you.
You've been
But
warned.
make sure we blow it then.
Yeah. Our
Like I
input
said,
list.
you've been warned.
Right.
The input list and the technical writer went over meticulously to avoid this. That for that reason, like Pat said, that's why we felt bad playing in Modesto at that one. Like he said, because that Evansville show, I just remember I call them the prefab stages because they look almost like mini ping pong tables kind of put together. We were playing, they had like ratchet straps around the mains, and as we played, they were just collapsing on the people, and they were like holding them, and the kids didn't care. They would it was insane. We're talking like 400 kids in this basement that was like 130 degrees. The ceilings were dripping, and they didn't care. Nobody gave a crap. And then it was just like, you knew what we brought to the table. We sent you a technical rider, but we played. And then the flip side of that is we played in Des Moines, Iowa, at Farley's. It was an arcade. Dude, when we showed up, it was like Kansas or Yes or like Ted Nugent in the middle of their height of the 70s. There was so many PA bins behind us, just walls and walls and walls. And when we came out, and they were like guitars, stage left, stage right. and our 808s hit, it was like my nipples were vibrating and shaking. It was the most insane thing. And I remember we started jumping around and playing during our show, and the stage started separating like the Red Sea right in front of us. There was kids like this with all their weight at the front, holding the stage together, trying to hold it while we were jumping around. I mean, it's very fun to look back and remember now, but it was awesome and scary as hell at the same time while it was happening.
So when we saw that, we're like, all right, you got all this equipment for a PA, but you come with this shitty ass freaking like Lego fucking stage. And then so me and our other guitarist, Danny, who's Ducci, we're like, we see the stage falling apart and there's like some chick holding the stage. So we're like, all right, let's just try to break the stage.
Just how hard can you stamp on it before your legs start going through? And it was only like a mini what, Pat? Like 3 feet?
Yeah.
3 feet above?
Yeah, it was just like all plate. Like it was just all like mini risers put together to build the stage. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
we're gonna die destroying this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then even on the Modesto one, I remember the Modesto, like Klank before, when we play live, we rely on the samples for our cues, and that's where we are on the song, and all right, cool. That's like, a lot of people listen to drums. I listen to this snare drum. When I play live, I listen to the snare drum, and I listen to the samples when we play. Yeah. All of a sudden, like literally 30 seconds into the first song, it's gone. There's no samples. And I just look over it, and I'm like, get him up! And he just looked at me, he's like, I got nothing. It's dead. He just totally took all the samples, had to come out because you just heard the farting from the speakers.
Yeah. All right, I just want to put a quick pause in the middle of the conversation, real quick, flying a million miles an hour, and I fucking love it, dude. Like, I want to thank all the Klanksters that are in here tonight.
We have a lot of them.
Rob Roulette, Rapey Garber, Cruz, like the list goes on, man. Like you guys showed up and showed out with your fan base, man. For all of you, please hit like, subscribe on the Facebook, on the YouTube. Spread not only Klank tonight, but let everybody know that Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box is here. We're here to interview your favorite musicians, your favorite wrestlers, your favorite horror movie actors, everybody. So like, please, if you're only in tonight because we brought Klank, first of all, thank you for showing up. And secondly, please continue to follow this journey because we're at 125 episodes and we ain't stopping anytime fucking soon.
No, we're not.
So back to Klank. Ooh, man, you guys are just 100 miles an hour, and I love it. Let's talk about the documentaries that you guys recorded soundtracks for, because in my opinion, that's super cool. Like, there's the Metal Missionaries one, and then there was another one that I didn't catch the name of from you guys when we were talking about it in pre-show. But talk to us about the documentaries you guys did soundtracks for, and, you know, the process of that, how you got picked for that. What spoke to you about that?
Pat, you want to take it?
Yeah, actually, what's up, Tom? I see you in the background. Yeah. Yeah, so
sorry, my cat is going crazy in the background, so he's trying to put a wrap on him.
Actually, we got the documentaries. An old friend from way back in the, you know, he did them. So he reached out to us and said, hey, do you guys, with the first one, with the Metal Missionaries, he's like, you guys interested in giving this a whirl? So we're like, fuck it. We've always wanted to do that. So let's see what happens. We've never done anything like that before. And it was pretty cool. It was super fun, that first one. And then he's like, do you want to do another one? And the next one was when Klank was in Dallas. So that was all done. You were here. Darren flew in for like a week. But other than that, that was all done remotely. So when he asked us to do the second one, that was Metal Health, I think, which is actually a really cool documentary about bands and having mental health issues with bands. So it was actually, that was a tough one to do just because you have to watch the footage. And for me, hearing the stories about depression and stuff like that, as you're trying to come up with musical ideas was definitely a challenge.
It was different.
It was different, but that's probably the happiest I am about something that I put out. Was that last documentary.
That was actually going to be my next question was like, how do you create music for a documentary? Like, as you kind of said, like, they give you the footage that you watched before and you kind of create the vibe and mood from the footage, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
totally.
essentially.
And then basically what you do is like we import the video in, and then you just watch it like 800 times and try to just get like a vibe. And you want it to all fit together into a theme as well. But and then you figure out where it fit, and then and then once you do that, like we used Ableton on the last one, we used Pro Tools on the first one, and you just set up markers inside the sessions and just say, all right, we're gonna go music from here to here. That's not gonna fit anything musically over, and then you just work from there. And it would be so many different ways we came up with musical ideas. It could have been me playing with this Eurorex and stuff, come up with a sound, or Darren playing a guitar idea or a loop, and then we would just sit there and.
Whoa! Did you just use his real name?
Yeah, he used my birth name.
Rewind.
We don't say the D word.
And I do want to ask about that here in a minute. But no, so what made you guys, like, when they came out with Metal Missionaries, what made you guys passionate about it? What made that interesting to you guys? Because I know it's basically a following of the extreme Christian metal scene, which is a rare scene. There's not a lot of bands that do it, or at least that are very well known. The first, of course, being Living Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for us, the guy that did it, his name is Bruce Moore, and he's a childhood friend of mine from Long Island. So he said, hey, man, he used to always call me up and say, I got this idea for something. I want to try it. He did this thing called For Those About to Cook. And it was recipes from your favorite metal artists and music artists from across the globe. And he said, do you want to submit? Do you think that's a good idea? I said, yeah, go ahead, do it. And then he had us submit recipes for it, and then he printed it. So our, like, recipes we came up with ourselves, or family recipes, drink ideas and stuff we used to do, came out in Bruce's book. And then he said, I'm going to do this thing called Brutally Delicious, which is a cooking show where I'm going to have, like, metal artists come in. And it was one of the first ones like that. So he asked us to do the theme song. So the Brutally Delicious theme, I don't remember what. Did we actually release that, Pat?
Which one?
The Brutally Delicious theme?
He used it on his podcast. That was it.
Yeah, he used it on the podcast and on his YouTube cooking show. And then he said, hey, I'm doing this documentary on the history of extreme Christian music, and I would really like you guys to work on it. And I was like, all right, cool. So like Pat said, that one we were watching and, coming up with ideas. Like, he had ideas, I had ideas, and we kind of got together, traded ideas off each other. And it was just weird because, like he said, with the second one, we watched it, and you were watching these interviews from people, and it was like, it's weird because you have to kind of, there's no musical vibe. So you got to kind of go by what they're saying and see how it stirs inside you and creates a vibe, and see where it takes you mentally. So that's when we started sending ideas back and forth and then working on stuff together. And then, like Pat said, I came out from Texas, spent like 11 days or something like that, and basically held up in his studio, in his garage every night. And it was insane because we kind of came in and we sat down and was like, all right, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And it was just that kind of like, and then, he'd press play on it and we'd start watching it. And then almost immediately it was like the brain would start to spin and he'd say, I got a couple of riffs, or I have this cool synth patch with a loop. And then I was like, oh, I got something. Or just, hey, Pat, plug in your guitar. So he'd hand me his Les Paul or his Jackson or whatever. And we just randomly on the cuff start coming up with like riffs and ideas. So it was just really a different vibe for us because, we're used to writing for ourselves. You're right. You're used to writing what music you feel inside. And like since day one, we always said the music of Klank is like a diary or a journal, but set to music. It's real life lyrics based on real life experiences for me, for Pat. Like a lot of it's third person for me. I see what Pat goes through in his life or what society goes through. And I write about, like, sometimes if I interject myself into that situation and write about it, even though it's not my normal situation. So it was different for us. And the inspiration, like, it was weird. Like you'd have it, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, Pat would just be like, hey, check this out. I got this. I started messing with the sound, and then we would play off each other back and forth. And that's also the joy of all these years of working together is I laugh and I say, Pat's like the yin to my musical yang. Our writing partnership is great because we feel so comfortable with each other. Because, like if you're writing in front of somebody, you're like, there's that pressure. This can't suck. This can't be horrible. For us, it's like, he pushes me to be a better singer. He pushes me. That's a cool riff. Try it like this. Or that was a good vocal take. But what if you, instead of going high here, why don't you dip here and then go high on another one? The joys of being a great...
He understands you, essentially.
Huh?
I'm saying that he understands you. Like, we all have... Now, let me go ahead and step out on a soapbox here real quick. Every single one of us has that one other musician that we just click. Like perfectly, like that's, most drummers we have, that's my guitar player, or that's my bassist, or that's my whatever. Mine was my brother Abraham Guerrero, who we lost a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And that was our thing is no matter what, we always found each other again musically. And, we would spend so many hours just pushing each other, and like you say, you and Pat do, and that's the connection I'm getting between you. The whole, hey, I understand your process. I've been working with you so long, watching you evolve for so long that I'm with you in lockstep. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Oh,
totally.
Dude, it's totally because like when he does stuff, it's funny because he'll send me an idea and like he'll anticipate what we anticipate what each other does a lot of times. It's like it's so amazing when you're in sync and you speak the same musical language, especially after, like you said, like all these years of working together. It's like you come to anticipate and expect what somebody's going to do, and it's not like it's what's the word I'm looking. It's not like it's I can't think of the term. It's
predictable is not quite the right word.
It's not predictable, but like you just kind of know after working and playing off each other for so long, you can anticipate what each other is going to kind of do next. Or if he goes, oh, this is a great idea you sent over, I'm going to dick around with this for a couple of hours tonight and I'll send it back to you. And then the next morning, I get up and I see, email, Pat Servido. And I listen to it and instantaneously I'm like sipping my coffee, getting ready to work. And I'm like, I just want to blow off work and go in the room and throw some guitars and some vocals down. Like right now, it's like, I always know that when I send him something and he says, I got something for this immediately, I'm going to work on it. The next day, it's like a junkie. I'm jonesing for that next Pat MP, that rough fix. Like I can't wait to open my email in the morning because I know it's like ping pong. You go back and forth, you're back and forth. And then to the point where we'll turn around and be like, do you realize that song just wrote itself? And we're like, I know.
No, it's perfectly easy. And so that was kind of how the process went for the mental health documentary you guys were talking about, right?
Yeah. The mental health. The one thing I really liked about doing the documentary, especially the mental health one, is I think we got out of our
comfort zone
niche too. You don't have to write the same type of music. We were able to kind of bring different genres of music all in. You can have a total super mellow, like chordy song, and like almost like an atmospheric type of thing. And then the next song could be, full on heavy, music. So I think that was what I really liked about it, doing it, is you got to really experiment more and do different things, and it all fit together, which was pretty cool.
We got to go outside of our musical box, like Pat said, because there's somewhere it's like a kind of acoustic-y beginning, and it just started from a very generic kind of chord progression and sent something to Pat, and then he built off that. And then there was other things where it was like very just atmospheric and spacey, and then go to something that was like extremely slow doom metal, and the next thing was like like the most insane riffing, and it was all over the spectrum, but it fit, it flowed, and it worked, and it fits so well. And like Pat said, I mean, I'm proud of everything I've done, but as far as the musical scores go, especially the mental health one, like I like the Metal Missionaries one, but the mental health one was just, it was so out of our comfort zone where we said, you know what, all bets are off. We know what people are expecting from us, but we've never wanted to be in one box. That's why when it comes to Klank, some songs are extremely heavy and aggressive, and some songs have like 8, 9, 10 layers of vocal melodies where it's heavy, but it's super melodic, and it's almost like the melodicness disguises and takes away from the heavy. But if you listen to it without the vocals, you're like, this is friggin' tough. Like, this is heavy, and that's what we've always done.
There is a lot of meaning to that. And one of the reasons I've been staying on the mental health documentary a little bit, and I'm sorry if I kind of stayed there, but it was because I think it's time we threw on a video.
Awesome.
So being as we went with mental health, Brandon, go ahead and tell us about this video.
Well, the video we have queued up, we have The Beast Within.
Klank, you guys want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what this is about, since mental health became the discussion for just a moment. I hate to be serious because this is a lot of fun, but this is an important topic.
This is a serious thing. Both Pat and I have people that were extremely close to us that got to a point in their life where they thought suicide was the only option. Suicide is a reoccurring theme in Klank music. Almost like every album has a song, if not multiple, that deal with it, because it's a problem. It's a pandemic in itself, because how many sports heroes, musical icons, friends, you know, even if you don't know somebody directly that's committed suicide, you might have a best friend who has, or a friend of a friend of a friend, you know, that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And for us, it's like, I know 8 people. I can count 8 people off the top of my head that have committed suicide, good friends. And it was like the fact that they felt that there was no option besides that. And like, we've all struggled in our past. When I wrote Still Suffering, I was in such a bad place, dudes. Like, that's what, like, the song Disease is all about that. It's about, you know, flowers on a box, you know, a body in a box, flowers on the grave, no one can hear your cries, final choice is made. It was very like, you know, death is it. Like, you find yourself in a situation where you think that's the only way out. That's not the only way out. And people always go, you know, friends and family and loved ones, you know, anybody who kills himself, whatever, they go, oh, they were selfish. They only thought about themselves. No, a lot of times, because I know I've been there, you think about everything, your parents, your brothers, your family, your loved ones, but whatever you're going through, pain, you know, whatever the situation is, all you wanted to do is stop. So you just get these kind of blinders on, like, about the only way to make this stop is this. Like, there's no other alternative but this. And it sucks because all these years later, you know, you're dealing with the repercussions of loss. One of Pat's best friends years ago, when we were first getting together, you know, succumbed to it. Friends that I had succumbed to it. And it was like, we it's something that we think about a lot, and it just happens to pop up because it's not something that's going away. Chester Bennington,
Chris Cornell,
Kurt Cobain, like the list just goes on and on and on. It doesn't matter if you like those bands or those singers or not, but it just kind of goes to show the millions, the fame, the tours, the girlfriends, the groupies, whatever. It doesn't matter because you find yourself in a situation where you just go, I just want out. I just want it to stop. The voices in my head, the pain, whatever you're going through. And you think that this is it. This is your only narrative and your only way out. And we, like I said, we write about what we see, what we feel, and a lot of things that we deal with is seeing the loss of these people. And we wrote The Beast Within. We had some music ideas for it, and the majority of the music was written first. And it was one of those things where for us, sometimes lyrics come first. Other times music comes first. It depends. It depends on the situation. With this, the music was written, and I remember sitting, listening to the and I was like, where is this song going to take me? And I'm one of those people, I can't pick a topic and go, oh, world hunger, suicide, racism, state of the world. I can't pick a topic and say I'm going to write about it. It's weird. I know I'm like neurotic in a basket case like that, but it has to just kind of flow and come to me. And whatever vibe I'm feeling at the time when I'm listening to something we're working on, 9 times out of 10 depends on where the flow lyrically goes. And when we were working on this, I remember just being like, Pat, this is, like usual, we're having music and I go, all right, dude, this is what I want you to do. We're just going to do a quick run through vocally, press record, but this is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to say it. This is what my intention is. And I'll give a quick, the initial cliff notes in my head. When we get to the chorus, I want 3 vocals, left, right, 1 in the center. I want it distorted. I want this. This is the stuff that I hear in my head. And the thing is, I can express it to Pat, and he can hear it before he even presses play. Like, he can kind of envision it from how I'm laying it out. And when we started doing the initial, run-throughs of this, it was like, by the time I got through the end of the, just a quick demo to show him, it was like, the hair on my arms, and his arms were kind of standing up, and it was like, I had no clue this was going to come out, dare I say, as mental as it did, or emotional. But sometimes, we get through finishing a song, and it's like, he hits stop or pause at the very end, and he'll just turn around and he'll look and he'll be like, dude. And I'm like, I know, and it's like, this is a constant theme that flows through our music and something we feel really strongly about. And songs like this, there was no preconceived notion. We didn't set out to write it about that. It just kind of happened. And then when it was done, we both just kind of sat back in the chair, almost like drained because of what ended up coming out. And it's like, most of the people that heard that song when we did it, and the fact that, we worked with our producer, Anthony, our video producer, and we said, we want to do a video for this. And he said, hey, why don't we reach out to your fan base? You guys have lost so many loved ones and friends to this. Let's put the word out. If anybody else lost any loved ones, someone they cared about, to this, send us a picture of them. Tell us a little bit of this story, when they were born and when they passed. And we'll memorialize them in our video, which is what we did. And I remember when we watched the final cut, we were bawling our eyes out, because it was like every chorus showed clips of people that we lost in the year. And it was so stirring and emotional, but we wanted to do it tastefully. We wanted to show respect to these people and not just be like, I don't want to say just another PSA. We wanted to put our heart and soul into it like we normally do. And even to this day, when I watch it, occasionally when I do watch it, I get choked up. I'm like, we created this, and it still stirs that much emotion. One of the joys of music is after all these years, you can listen to something and still be brought to that place of extreme joy or extreme sadness or emotionality, you know, and it just talks to you.
It's a nice memorial thing too.
Yes,
that's the big thing. And
exactly.
it's fans. It's like fans that's what makes it even more for us. You know, it's not like just our friends or our family that we lost. It's actual fans who submitted and wanted their loved ones in it. I think that's what's super cool about the video.
The best part about that too is when the day we released it, we messaged we had the list of everybody that submitted pictures and stuff, and we said, hey, we're going to go live today with the video. The influx of messages of people that were like, I sat there glued to my screen, crying my eyes out, but they were sad, bittersweet tears because this was my loved one and you did them justice and their story was told and they're memorialized in this. For us, it was so stirring and moving. You know, I'm an emotional guy. I'm, you know, I'm a dog lover. You see all my pictures and my photos.
Yeah.
The stupidest thing might get me all kind of choked up, but something like this, dude, it heard so much emotion where it was like, it felt good too for like the listeners to be like right along there with us. Like they knew they weren't alone. You know,
yes.
They had other friends that might be thousands of miles from them in this band that knew what they were going through. And we were standing side by side with them through this. And it was just so great for us. And I'm super thankful that it was as well received as it was. And for our friend Anthony Herrera, who, executive produced the video and did it all and laid it all out for us because he approached it with kid gloves. He wanted to make sure that it was received and accepted with the class and dignity that it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And we achieved our goal, I think, and then even went above our own expectations with it.
Well,
go ahead, Brandon. I know it's been tough for us to jump in tonight.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
okay.
man. I'm gonna cut you guys off.
That's okay.
No need to apologize.
No, not one bit. So, with all of that explanation, let us jump into the video and see what we're talking about. Let's take a little break here and just digest this.
And refill my glass.
There you go.
Same.
Here we go, guys. This is The Beast Within.
Of course, God.
And we're
Was it Leon that said he had a panic attack recently?
Yeah, his first one.
I had my first panic attack at 30 years old, so I know exactly what he's going through, and I still fight that 17 years later.
I see you've gained another guest, by the way.
I did, yeah.
And who do we have tonight?
This is Shay Dizzle. This is Shay.
Shay
Yeah.
Dizzle. How old?
Shay.
Yeah, 10 months.
Oh wow!
Congrats, man.
Thanks.
How old are your other kids? You say you have 3, right?
Yeah, I've my oldest is 6 and my youngest is 3. So it's a handful.
Pat's building our own little backup band.
Right. My retirement plan.
Yeah, teach them the ropes so we could have Klank running forever.
Right.
Well, the idea is to get to be like P-Funk or Black Crowes, where you have like 14 people on stage, like Slipknot. It'll be like the younger generation holding us up as we're like old and decrepit. They can hold the back down for us.
Right, get you your water, bring you your Geritol and soft foods.
Yeah, bring me my Benefiber and my Metamucil and my electrolyte water.
Right.
No, but seriously though, like, not to jump back onto the song, but a lot of people don't realize they're not alone in their struggles, and that's the biggest issue. Because I know for myself in the past, it was like, nobody feels like this. How can anybody else feel like I feel? But you come to find out that you really aren't alone. There's a lot of the circumstances might not be exact, but you find others that have that the question, oh my God, I'm in like this headspace. And, you know, you have to actually know that you really aren't alone out there. You know, there might be different circumstances, but it's that same kind of headspace. And it's just great for people to realize and say, hey, you know what? I'm not alone in this. And to some, like even to myself, it brought me a lot of comfort, because when I was like, you know, first writing the first album and things I was going through, was like, you feel like you're all alone. Like nobody knows, you know, it's that whole, nobody understands me, nobody gets me. And then over time you talk to people and you go, oh my God, like you get it. Like you realize what I'm going through. And for us, one of the things, even after all these years, like I said, it's 25 years our debut's out, we still get letters from people that go, dude, you don't understand. The music of Klank was the soundtrack to my adolescence. The thing that always still stirs in us is when people go, you took a flashlight, you looked inside my head, you saw all the things that I was feeling and I was thinking, but I couldn't say and I couldn't express myself. And like for Pat and I, we do what we do because it feels, and it's expressing what we feel ourselves. But when somebody else, a total third party, gets something out of it to that extent, it's a game changer. It's weird because then you realize, yes, we're doing this for ourselves, but it kind of makes you realize that there's other people paying attention and listening. Because the first album came out, I'll never forget, a guy from New Jersey reached out and he said, I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what to do anymore. He wrote my P.O. box and he said, honestly, I'm going to kill myself. I've been researching ways to kill myself. I need to check out. I can't deal with this world. I can't deal with anything anymore. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my purpose is. And I'm counting on you to give me a reason to live. I'm going to give it a week or so until I get a reply from you. And if I don't hear from you, dude, what the hell? You know, like when somebody sends you something like that, that's insane. That's insane amount of responsibility and on your head. And I just remember reading this kid's message because I was in New York still at the time. So it only took like 2 days to get to me. And I was like, crap, what do I say? I'm like, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not a role model. I just wrote music that felt relevant to me. So then it was like, I literally sat there and I was like, all right, God, like, I literally don't know what to say. I'm going to put the pen in my hand and I'm going to start writing. Please, please make something come out that'll give this kid a reason to live, because I don't know what to tell him, because I was going through my own crap at the time. You know, I was like, I lost family members and loved ones, and I was in the pit of my own despair. And I told him, I said, you know what, dude? I said, I don't know if this means anything to you. I said, but my brother John and his wife had a baby. His name was Anthony. I said, I went to the hospital, and I remember when he was born, I was standing there and they said, do you want to hold him? This is your nephew. I said, and I held him. I said, and when I was holding him, he did like most babies do, that thing out to you, and they kind of cling and they pull and they hold on to you. And I said, I don't know why. I say sense to me. I was like, oh my God, if I would have checked out when I wanted to, I wouldn't have experienced this. Now, meanwhile, this isn't my kid, but it's blood of mine because it's my nephew. And I said, it spoke to me. It ministered to me in a way. And it was like, I had this weird, like, oh man, I'm so glad I didn't take, you know, I didn't go through door number B, which was check out permanently. Because if I did, I never would have experienced this. And I said, yeah, it's not my kid, but just the fact that there was my little nephew who was this tiny little peanut, like pulling my hair and holding on to me. And it just felt, there was just something. And I wrote all this out and I said, dude, I don't know if this even means anything to you, but it spoke to me and it made me realize I'm so glad to still be here to see my nephew born.
Yeah.
I sent this kid the letter, you know, priority, whatever it was to send it. 3 days later, I get a letter back. 3 days later, I get a letter back from this guy. And he's like, dude, I'm sitting here reading your letter in tears. My sister and her husband just had a baby. I read your letter to the hospital and I held this baby for the first time. And I was crying my eyes out, realizing that if I would have succumbed to these thoughts, like similar like you, I wouldn't be there holding but in his case, it was a niece, I believe. He's like, I wouldn't be holding her and feeling that, like, wanting to cling to me and being a part of its life. I want to thank you so much for giving me something, like a thread of something to hold on to. And I was like, I was reading this kid's letter and I was in tears myself. Holy crap. Like, I didn't know what to say. Like, dude, what do you say in a situation like that? You're like, I'm just some dumb schmuck musician who wrote something that seemed relevant to myself at the time. And it was just so weird. And then I kind of realized too, like, even for my own musical heroes and the people I looked up to, you know, like King's X and some like Trouble and the bands that I listened to growing up, where it was like, I listened to their music and it was like, it spoke to me and I got something out of it. You know what I'm saying? Where you connected with that music on a level, and it was like, you don't think of yourself in that situation. Because I'm like, we're not on a major label. We've always been on indies and done stuff ourselves. How can we have that kind of impact? But the thing is, you never realize who's going to come across your music.
Yeah.
One way or another, what they're going through in life, what their headspace is, and the fact that so much that they can relate. I could write about such a shitty experience that I had, or Pat had me looking through on a third party, or something that we went to collectively as a band. And for people to always kind of come back and say, man, dude, you know, I love music, but something about your lyrics, they draw me in. They hit me different than like Rob Zombie or something else. There's something different to it. We've always connected with our listeners on a different level, and you see it live. Like when they're screaming the words and you see the emotion in their face. We've played and we've seen people like just singing the words and crying, and just it's a very weird, sobering experience, because They're like, dude, we're just a couple of dudes that sit in Pat's garage and write the stuff that comes to our mind, not having a clue that it's going to reach people in the way it does. But that's the flip side. You never know what something you create and how it's going to resonate with somebody else, no matter what it's about.
Speaking of resonating, let's take that opportunity to transition a little bit to what you guys are doing for this next album. You know, can you tell us a little bit about the themes and subject matters of the songs that you're writing currently?
I want Pat to handle the majority of this, but I'll just say a good portion of the new songs actually have to deal with my recent divorce and the stuff I went through. Like I said, I write about what I go through. And for us, like I said, it's always been like a journal. But in with some of the newer stuff, when Pat sent me some stuff he worked on, I was like, what am I going to say? Like, what's going to be the subject matter? Like I said, I can't give myself a topic. He sent this one song to me musically, which ended up being a song called Goodbye From Me. And it just stirred in me. And I basically wrote exactly about what happened with my wife and I. There was infidelity, not on my end. There was a really hard breakup and violated trust. And it hurt me. I was in a really dark, bad place. And like I said before, I said to Pat, when we were going to do these vocals, I said, all right, dude, basically press record as a rough take, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, and what I'm hearing in my head. And when we got done cutting this song, he was just like, because you see it on his face, he goes, dude, I've always loved your lyrics because they're real and they're relatable and they're full of emotion. He's like, but dude, this is literally like an exposed nerve. Like, it's more real than anything we've ever done. And for myself, it was like, it was so therapeutic. It was hard as hell to do because by the time I was holding out the last of the song, I was bawling my eyes out. And you can kind of hear the emotion in the takes. And for myself, it was like, I literally put my entire heart and soul into it. And for him to spin around in the chair and be like, dude, like it was, like he was feeling it and he was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this was taking anything we've ever done, but to a whole different level, even emotionally. And dude, it was draining. Like, I was wiped out for days after doing it. But now, like, when we listen to these final masters, it's bittersweet because I went through it. But on one hand, like, divorce sucks. Cheating and all that sucks. But the flip side, I can say after all these years, is, my God, the music that came out of it and the positive of that experience, but the flip side of all the darkness and all the sadness and the sorrow and the bitter and the anger and the hurt is what the fruits of the labor. There's a song on there I basically talk about spending 3 months in complete black, no TV, no nothing, night after night, literally going through Google, researching ways to check out as painlessly as possible. And it wasn't like, oh, boo-hoo, my wife and I split, I want to kill myself. This was the culmination of so much stuff I've gone through my whole life, getting this crazy job opportunity, having to tell my best friends, my bandmates, that I really want to try to make this work. And even though my wife and I were going through issues at the time, I was like, I really kind of need to do what I need to do to help save my family. And to have it all just literally explode in my face 3 weeks later after we moved. And it was like, and not once did Pat say, I told you so. It wasn't anything like that, but it was more like, my biggest fears of if it didn't work out. Now here I am in a total, like 1,500, 1,800 miles away from my best friend, away from my bandmates, away from my family. And I had I don't want to say I don't have any support system, but my bros and my ones that I went like this with for so many years, I didn't have, but thank God I had text messaging and calling and video chatting because I'm sure at one point Pat was almost sick of seeing it. Oh, Jesus Christ, here he comes again. But it was like a lifeline for me, and like talking me off the ledge. I always say Pat has always metaphorically talked me off the ledge with this, and a lot of the music shows it. And for myself, it's like I'm not happy about what I went through, but I'm happy that, unlike most people, we had an avenue to funnel all this emotion and just the crap and the stress and the hate and love and the anger, everything, and just turn it into something constructive. You know what I'm saying? I know I said I was going to say Pat to do it, but I had to just kind of get that out, because it was so like I said, every song is an open canvas, and it was like, I don't know what to say, and I didn't want to be redundant, like, oh, I'm going to whine and piss and moan about getting divorced. It was more like I had something to say, and I need to say it, and some of it's very angry. It's very pissed off. Some of it, musically, it's so beautiful, and it's wrapped up in all these nice melodies and stuff, but it's like venom spitting out. But it needed to be said, and it's wrapped up in this package. And even still, like, I showed some people a couple of songs, and when they turned around and they were like my one friend Caleb in Texas, he turned around when I showed him, and he was just like, dude, he goes, knowing you and knowing what you went through and being like a front row spectator, he's like, this is hardcore. He's like, your music's always been intense, but dude, this is like hardcore times 10. Like, and for us, it's like, we've always given a piece of ourselves, multiple pieces of ourselves when we recorded, but being that vulnerable to express on such an intimate level, like, dude, we're storytellers. We've always, we paint a picture verbally. And with this, it's like, you're there. You're feeling the wound. You're feeling the stress. But it was just amazing.
Saying, if you want to send that over, we're okay with it.
Yeah, well, it's mixed. It's going to be mastered soon, but we'll make sure you get some.
Hey, we'll take
You'll have it real soon.
Too.
What?
Huh?
What's that, Pat?
You'll have it real soon.
Yes, real soon, seriously.
Yeah.
But Pat, was there anything you want to add on that?
No, I just think like you hit it. I think out of all of our CDs and music we've put out, this, because of what Klank went through, it's almost like lyrically and vocally, it's a total different album. Like, even vocally, like, just delivery-wise, you can tell he's in a total different comfort zone with his voice. But lyrically, you're there. Like, you feel everything he was going through. And it's almost like, it's very emotional, like, lyrically. Like, it's almost like you're the psychiatrist listening to him, like, get everything out. You're in the chair and he's laying on the couch, getting everything out. Like you basically, that's how all these songs are. And I think, and because the recordings, because we stopped so many times while we're recording, you kind of get like we're even going to release in 2 parts, but the first part is way darker, and you can kind of see where it's pretty cool, because you can kind of see where he turned the corner in life too, just mentally, from everything, because the lyrics go away. But it's almost like the first half, part 1 that we're going to release, like the lyrics and just the delivery on everything, you feel like you're right there. You're gonna know, you'll feel exactly what he was going through during those times, which is pretty crazy how he was able to capture that emotion, in the song, which is pretty amazing.
Which goes back to what we said earlier about the whole comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the album is gonna be in like the first one is gonna be in like a 2-volume set. The first one is the darker, the rougher, but then the second one is the coming out from that, like coming out on the other side and moving on. First half is in the deepest, darkest pit of the despair, and then like Pat says, you kind of see the flow, and it's like you come out of it and you're now in the, I don't want to say like the denial, acceptance kind of thing, but it's the heart of the gut-wrenchingness of this, and then you see the clarity and the moving on and the next phase of it where things kind of, because before I left for Texas, I was on such an uptick. Like the stuff that we were doing, it was, and I don't want to say it was happy. It was more, it was upbeat. It was maybe a bit more positive lyrically, but then to get thrown into like the lion's den of everything I went through was just like, man, just as I thought it couldn't get any worse. You know, it was like I watched my entire life and my existence blow up and like the Hindenburg and just crash. But it was almost like,
damn, took it back to the Hindenburg.
Yeah, but it was like rising, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but it was almost like the phoenix rising from the ashes. It was kind of like a whole, okay, done this, been here, wallowed in this despair. Now the only way to go is up, one way or another, and got to where I'm my trajectory of where I'm at now. And you can, like Pat said, you can see it and you can feel it musically. And like I said, and we just continued on with the recording because it was like, why stop? Ride the wave of what we've had going on, you know?
Absolutely, man. Dude, what an awesome story. And thank you for being so candid and vulnerable. To me, vulnerable is the new fucking Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, if you can be vulnerable, and we have that ability for some reason, people like being vulnerable with us, and we appreciate it.
But dude, you know what? You get to a certain point in your life. It's so funny because my brother hit the nail on the head when I was on Long Island like 2 weeks ago. He said, you know what? He goes, you get to a certain point in your life where you cross the threshold where you just don't care anymore. You say what you want to say. You get your point across. You don't care what anybody else thinks. And you do and say what you got to do for you. And it was like, even musically, it's that same vibe. Like I said, we've never followed a specific formula. People always assumed, oh, well, this album doesn't sound like your first album and your second album doesn't sound like this. And because we've never wanted to be kept in a box. We've always wanted to do whatever we felt was right at the time we did. We know what our core fans like, and we're very aware of that. But at the same point, there's really only one band. Slayer was the only band that can essentially make the same album for 40 years, and people will just be like, okay, cool, because it was just all straight aggression. But for us, it's like life is a roller coaster. There's a lot, and I'm not knocking Slayer. Slayer.
No, it's okay if you were, dude. I'm with it. I knock Slayer all day.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking. It's just more like when you get a Slayer album, it's just gonna be. You get it, but we're not that type. We've always did what we wanted to do. We didn't care about trends. When people said you can't do this, we always said we're gonna do what we want to do, how we want to do it, and that's been. Some people say the blessing and the curse of what we do because we buck the trends. We don't care, you know.
By the way, I love being on video because you were very New York there with that fucking like, I love it. I absolutely adore it.
It is what it is, you know. And like I said, dude, we've been at this so long that it's like I said, we're aware of what people want to hear. People want to hear animosity. They want to hear downside. They want to. That's great, but at the same point. You know, I just turned 50. I still have some things in my life that I get extremely pissed off about. Pat, you know, he busts his ass. He runs a computer department at his job, and he has those days where he's just like, you know, and it's like we play that energy off each other, and it comes out in the music, and we're cool with it. You know, we don't believe in releasing the same album over and over. And people go, oh, I want the same album from 1996. You're not 96. You know, you're not going to get it. That's not who we are. Nobody. You know, there's not many bands that can do that, and that's not what we want to do. We've always wanted to evolve. We feel like we've evolved, and even like Pat was saying, like with this one, it was like the lyrics, the vocals, the emotion. We had songs that we were like, this is done, and then I said, hey Pat, I know there's 12 vocals on this song. But I have an idea for 4 more vocal harmonies. And he'd say, well, you know the deal. It's not done in third. Let it rip. So show me what you got. So we would just throw more layers on. And I was like, what do you think? And he goes, I think you shouldn't have waited that long to do it. And it was like, cool, you know, and it's like nothing's ever done with us until it's actually mastered. And even sometimes after it's mastered, we go, I think on the remix, we'll change this a little bit. We'll do this. You know, your wheels are always spinning in your head.
So, you know, we're talking about the album. It has so much emotion to the lyrics. Obviously, we don't know what the music sounds like yet, but do we have a name for this upcoming album yet?
We do. We haven't released it yet. We haven't made it. What do you think, Pat?
I would say, I mean, why not release a name right here for the first time?
Yes.
Oh, we get an exclusive.
Okay.
Right?
This is,
I mean,
this
come
is an
on.
exclusive for you guys. The album is going to be called Between Unholy and Divine.
Yeah.
Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 is going to be the Unholy Edition, and Volume 2 is going to be the Divine Edition. Coincidentally, we already have the artwork done. We have everything laid out, and the artwork will reflect the lyrics and the overall vibe and aura of the music. And I got to say, the song Unholy and Divine, I'll never forget, I was super, this was about 5 months after my separation, right after my divorce hit. I was having a really bad day, and I was messing around with Ableton because, like I said, Pat set me up with the whole computer and everything. I had this drum thing set up, and it was, I'm a staunch for down. I'm neurotic. I like things super down picked, even though it's super hard and technical and it feels you need to put an ice pack on your wrist. I'm just a purist as far as like, oh man, this is great, but if I can nail this down picked. So I sent Pat this idea. I said, dude, check this out. This is what it has been in my, you know, phone today. I sent it to Pat, and he was just like, oh my God, that's a wrist burner. He's like, I'm going to, you know, mess around with this at lunch and stuff. He ended up sending me back at the end of the day a rough sketch of, and meanwhile, I sent him like just crappy drum machine drums. He deleted all that. He had samples, programmed drums, 808s, like all the stuff that he does. And when he sent it to me, I was like, oh, it was that whole like tap in the vein. I was like, oh my God. The endorphins started flowing and the lyrics started coming, and it was super pissed and super aggro. And I started channeling for the title track. I started channeling everything I went through. Like, you know, of course, I'm totally drawing a blank right now, and I can't think of the lyrics. And I was like, you know, oh my God, because I want to give a quote of a certain lyric. You know, trapped inside these walls of endless black, wondering if I can make it back, calling out for help, but will I drown this time? Cross the line, walk the line between unholy and divine. And I was talking about, like, you know, basically another day, another night of darkness, like nothing but just my own thoughts echoing in my head. You know, will I drown this time, or will I survive, or will I drown this time? And it was just super like heavy and dark and bleak to some extent. But then when we sent stuff back and forth, by the time we had the last demo finalized before we started cutting it, I listened to it and I was like a friggin' porcupine. The hair on my arms was standing up, and it was just like it was brutal, man. It was so brutal because it was like, this is that exposed nerve. This is that, you know, that whole skirting the line of, am I going to make it through? like, can I make it through? And if I do make it through, what is there to expect? Where do I go from here? Life that I had known it for the last 10 years, like with my life, my wife, and how my life was, literally just burned to ashes right in front of me. And it was like, where do you continue from this? Like, what's the next step of the rung of the ladder? Like, where to go? And it was just, and then we were comparing notes on that. And it was like, dude, this song is going to suck to learn forward because it was all, super aggro intense. But when we listened to like the final version, like even now, it's like, I can't help but have that crap eating grin because I know the emotion that it was born from. And I know the humble beginnings of just sending him the riff of, hey, this is the guitar idea I've been dicking around with a little bit. And then what he sent back and how we traded off to now, what it morphed into is like, dude, it's mind-boggling. Even for myself, like, we wrote it. And even for myself, I sit there and I go, holy crap, did we do this? Like, did we really just do this? And I even, it's kind of, I'm amazed at what we end up coming up with because of these situations, like based on real life. And at the end of the day, as horrible as divorce is and how much as it sucks to be cheated on repeatedly and put your trust in someone 100% to have them lie to your face and manipulate you for months to the point where you don't know what's reality and what's not anymore. And then when you find out that it's all been lies and you've been, cheated on and just taken advantage of to the extent that you have, what can you do? Usually most people just collapse and they freak out. And for me, it was like, it got to the point where we were able to take this and harness it and work it into this music. And it was, even now, like, I can't wait till it's released because even though it's been like technically 3 years now from the divorce, because like I said, we're on our own schedule. We don't follow any other schedule. It's just, it's amazing to get to the point where it's therapeutic even to listen to, even still to this point, because I can also know when I listen to it, man, this is exactly where I was in my timeline mentally when it happened. You know what I'm saying?
Not to cut you short here, but I have two pieces of news, one good, one bad. What do you guys want to hear first?
Go with the bad.
I think we've lost Pat.
Pat probably had to put his son down to bed. That doesn't mean he won't be back.
He's been frozen in the same smile for the last 4.5 minutes.
He's just really enjoying the story.
The bottom it said Pat.
Yeah, right.
It said Pat left, and I have a feeling it was time to put his son down.
That's okay.
No, it's cool. It's cool. We understand. All right, you want the good news? Our longtime running friend of the show and media guy, Mike Vanek, said Pat's back. Pat's back. Longtime media guy and staff member of the show, Mike, in relation to you, Mr. Klank, has said that he is like a homeless rambling wizard, but in a good way.
I like Mike Vanek. I remember those Mike Vanek suck stickers, but he doesn't suck. Mike's a good guy. I like Mike.
No, he sucks. It's okay to say it.
But he sucks.
No, his show is literally named Mike Vanek Sucks. That's his show, which you guys should be on next. Don't get me wrong. Mike Vanek does a great show, good interview, and he does a lot for us.
Yeah.
Sorry to be the rambling wizard, the homeless guy on your show, but
But in a good way. But in a good way.
What's that?
Pat, welcome back. We thought you were just smiling and hanging out for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. This is the joy of computers.
So do we have an idea on when this next album will be dropping?
We don't have an official release date for Volume 1. Pat, what do you want to say about this? I know it's going to be in the not too distant future, but care to elaborate?
Yeah, we just gotta. We'll be announcing soon. We just gotta. I would probably think sometime in September.
Oh, coming up.
Yeah, I think
I did a cross country road trip with my dog for 3 weeks, so that kind of put a damper on the mixing. But the first volume is done, so we're gonna jump pretty much shortly here and right into the wave of the mixing on the second one, and then after that we have 2 albums worth of remixes and stuff that are gonna come out as well. But September does sound pretty on track, especially after all this time we've been waiting.
And we are getting some questions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and get to that. We're 2 hours deep into the show, and I think this is probably a good wrap-up point, even though we could probably sit here and talk for at least another 3 or 4 hours easily.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
We always have a post show.
But my friends, Klank, Pat, Klank, where can they find you guys?
Everywhere.
All streaming sites.
Klanknation.com, Facebook, Twitter, IG, Spotify, Apple Music. I don't even know what. There's so many of those damn streaming sites now.
Deezer, YouTube, Amazon, Napster, Crapster, the whole 9. You know.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wokepedia.
It's where we got all the information for the show tonight. It's been wonderful. Pat, Klank, thank you so much for being on episode 125 of Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box.
Real quick. Rappy Garber says Klank Fan Club on both Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, he runs our pages for us. Coincidentally, on my road trip with my dog, we stopped in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where he lives, and we got to hang out and have lunch. It was the first time I saw him and got to meet him. Rappy is hardcore. He has a Klank tattoo across his chest. Wow. He has lyrics tattooed across his arm. He is like the Klank super soldier, and we love him and appreciate him running the fan pages for us and doing the fan clubs. So thanks, Rappy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have that in our very own Jordan Marin Harrison, but she's also on drugs. So,
well, Rappy's not on drugs. He's just hardcore.
Well, awesome. So tonight, as we're wrapping up, we will leave with one more music video from Klank. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Klank, for joining us tonight. I definitely think we need a part 2 with Klank.
Let's do
it. We could go for hours. We got tour stories and craziness until the cows come home.
We haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, we didn't even touch any of that.
We didn't even get into ripping people and making fun of anyone.
No.
Yeah. And that's a favorite
pastime
of ours. We're from New York, so we're all about ripping and shredding.
Right.
All right, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Klank. We will get a part 2, a part 3, and a part 27. We'll get there. So my name is Brandon, the Boss Blacker. You can find me on Instagram at The Real Brandon Blacker. Find my band Suburban Paranoia on all social media platforms and streaming sites. And that's about it. Mr. Lunchbox, where can they find you?
They can find me at Nothing But Losers on Facebook, Nothing But Losers on Instagram, and Nothing But Loser, that is no S, on Twitter. But most importantly, you can find this show at Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box on Facebook. Don't forget to join the Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box Facebook discussion group, where we shitpost all the bullshit you want to bullshit about all day long, including, hopefully, very shortly in September, new Klank music.
Yeah!
You can find us on Instagram at Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box, on YouTube at Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box, on Twitter at shop_talking. But most importantly, you can find this show every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box. Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box on Facebook, Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box on YouTube, and Devastated Media on Twitch. Ladies and gentlemen, we will end this with a Klank episode. There will be no further discussion except in the post-show series. And hopefully we might get some bonus material. Brandon, what are we ending tonight's show with?
I picked the video Manipulation. It is a lyric video. And yeah, so we're gonna leave you with some more Klank to end the night, and I guarantee you we will get a part 2.
Thank you so much for having us, guys. We love you guys. Appreciate the support and having us here.
Hell yeah!
Good seeing you both.
You too, man.
Hey, good seeing you too. Stick around. We got post show to go.
All right. Good night, everybody. Be safe, and let's rock out to some Klank.
Here,